It's time to chill out and get ready for a mediocre Q&A live stream. If you're old enough, grab yourself your favorite adult beverage, and if you're not, stick with apple juice. Put your feet up and relax. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And now let's cue up the intro music. Yo, how are you guys all doing this evening? I hope you guys are doing well. Here in Southern California, we got all kinds of crazy stuff going on again. It started with like a partial kind of a lockdown where they were shutting down restaurants again. They did it for some of the state. And then our governor today just came out and said for the entire state now. So he made restaurants can't seat people in the dining rooms, all that good stuff. So we're having to kind of figure all that stuff out, and it's crazy. So hopefully you and your family are doing well, and hopefully you guys are surviving all this craziness. I really don't have any great advice for it. It's just save your pennies. That's my advice. So let's start this off real quick. Really appreciate you guys making it in here, okay? We got a lot of new viewers. We have a lot of new people from the channel coming over to these live streams and actually coming to the channel lately. So I just kind of wanted to start off, as I have been the last couple streams, with an intro, okay? My name is Chris. I'm an HVACR service technician here in Southern California. The cliff notes of the whole story is that I started making videos for my own employees, decided to hit the public button, the channel grew, it became this thing that it is today. The whole purpose of this channel with the YouTube videos that I put out and these live streams that I do is to literally share the little bit of knowledge that I have, okay? and to try to prevent you guys from making the same mistakes that I have made over my career. And I have made a ton of mistakes. Okay, luckily I came up in a forgiving time in the trade, working for a lot of forgiving customers. And unfortunately, I work for some of those same customers today, and it's not the same environment anymore. It's pretty fierce out there. They don't really accept any mistakes. You know, they'll cut ties with a contractor. Doesn't matter how long you've been with them, in a heartbeat, for something simple. So I'm trying to share that information, the mistakes that I've made with you guys, in hopes that maybe you guys don't make the same ones. Okay, so that's the gist of my story. I do these live streams on Monday evenings every week consistently. It's actually been a good year and a half now that I've been doing these live streams. It's kind of crazy, and I could probably count on my hands how many times I've missed a stream. I really do them every Monday evening. Occasionally I can't make it because of work, you know, so that's why I always say work permitting, but hey, it is what it is. Got lots of things on my list that I like to talk about. So I usually talk about the videos that I discussed and everything. I do want to kind of start off with something. We are trying an experiment again. Okay. We've done this before. I'll be honest with you. It failed miserably the time before, and that's because I tried to do it all myself, or myself and my friends tried to do it, and it just didn't turn out too well. Okay, so we've created a new Discord server. This time we have a moderation team involved, and hopefully the whole point of the Discord server is literally to have another point of communication for you guys with me. And then you guys can communicate between whoever else is in the server, between yourselves, that's fine. But to make it completely clear, I am not going to be on this server 24/7. I am not going to be monitoring it 24/7. We have a moderation team that's going to make sure everything's good. But it is a place, like for instance, today in the stream, we kind of did a little test hangout where I was in the server, just listening to music, talking with everybody, just kind of like the chat right now, but it was just before the stream, you know, just hanging out. So I'm going to throw a link to the Discord server in the YouTube chat right now. I think the moderator bot's going to throw it up in there too, but feel free to join if you guys are interested. If you don't know what Discord is, much like I'm still learning about it too. It's just another means of social media, basically another communication means. Don't worry about it. Just there's pretty easy instructions on how to join and all that good stuff. So feel free to check it out. All right, we got that business out. Got a couple new videos that I had this last week. Okay, 2 of them. They were some pretty popular videos. The second one being the most popular in a while. And I kind of knew that was going to happen because I kind of pimped that one on social media a little bit here and there. But the first video that I released was the dining room AC is not working. Okay. And that one was actually one that's been plaguing me for the last 2.5 weeks, because the first call I went out there, I found that it had a failed VFD, okay? The VFD in that unit, and I get a lot of questions about this, the VFD in that unit, Naka Fire and Security, thank you so very much for that super chat. That is awesome. I really appreciate it, bud, okay? It's not required to do super chats or anything like that, but it is appreciated when you guys do it, okay? So the air conditioner in that video had a VFD on it. Okay. The point of having a VFD on a package unit like that was a multi-stage air volume unit. The purpose of it is to save energy. Now, it's arguable whether or not the energy savings, you know, it costs them a ton of money. Okay. So I would argue that the energy savings really isn't there for the amount of money that they have to put in to maintain that unit, but that's a whole nother argument to make. But the VFD is there to basically make it a 2-speed blower. Whenever first stage calls, it runs at whatever speed we program the VFD for, which is a lower speed. In this situation, I think it was 40-something hertz, okay? And then on a call for second stage, which turns on the rest of the compressors in the unit, it goes to full speed, which is 60 hertz here in the United States, okay? The purpose behind having a multi-stage air volume, if you don't already know, is think about it like this. Every air conditioner that's ever been created that did not have multi-stage air volume, okay, they had to set the airflow for all stages of cooling, all right? So whenever the evaporator coil starts getting cold and it starts condensating, you get moisture dripping off the coil. That coil, the static pressure drop across that coil increases because you have a wet coil, it's harder to pull air through it. Okay, makes sense? So because the static pressure increases, we have to set the CFM through the evaporator coil to maintain a certain amount of airflow. Typically, now this changes from different parts of the country or different parts of the world, but I live in a very dry climate. We run about 400 CFMs per ton, okay? Some places maybe 450, some places maybe 375. It just depends, okay? But anyways, we have to pull so much air through that evaporator coil, even if all stages or just one stage is running. But let's think about this. If only one stage is running on that giant 15-ton evaporator coil, then there's only going to be so much condensation. So theoretically, we're going to be pulling too much air, and we're going to be running the blower and using more energy because we're pulling enough air for if we had a fully saturated coil, okay? So we have the multi-stage air volume, so that way when only first stage is calling, it slows down the airflow, okay? Because we don't need that much airflow to compensate for a wet coil, basically, because only half of it's being wet or a third of it. That's the whole point of the multi-stage air volume, okay? Now, with the VFD in that unit, they're installed in a really crappy location, okay? And arguably, it's not really the manufacturer's fault because the customer wants everything perfect, right? And they want everything easy. In a perfect world, that VFD comes shipped separate. It's installed in a mechanical room downstairs that's got filtered air going to it. It has power conditioning going to it. That VFD would probably last for a very long time, okay? But unfortunately, that's not how it works. And in California, we have all kinds of energy laws that say we have to have these multi-stage air volume units. We have to have the VFDs installed in them. So they just throw them inside the package unit, sometimes in the electrical section, sometimes in the blower section. There's really no good place inside that package unit to put a VFD because everywhere it gets hit by dirt, heat, all kinds of crappy stuff, so the VFD fails. In my opinion, the reason why the VFD failed in my video was because it was dirty. Okay, you guys saw that dust all around it, and it also sits in that compressor cabinet that it gets extremely hot, and it just gets beat by the sun, and it overheated, and it was probably dirty, and the VFD failed, okay? But it was kind of frustrating in that situation because the VFD, it wasn't as simple to replace. So I went ahead and bypassed the VFD. Then I ran into some problems bypassing it. So I ended up having to leave it in play, but still bypass it. You watch the video, you guys will understand. But then once I replaced the VFD, I found out that the circuit board was bad. And then we had to go through the process, and you guys can kind of see it in the video, but it can be frustrating at times, okay? And in a situation like that, I really had to lean on technical support because I don't have the knowledge in my head on how to program everything and how to check everything. So there's certain things I just have to accept that I'm not going to know everything because, you know, something like programming that Linux Prodigy unit. I know how to program the board for a startup, but as far as setting up the VFD and bypassing the VFD and removing it from the Prodigy board and all that stuff, I don't have that knowledge in my head, nor do I even want to have that knowledge. That's something that I would rather lean on technical support for, okay? So in that situation, I gave tech support a call. Now, it's very important, though. When I called technical support, I had everything that they needed to know, okay? I called them with models and serial numbers. I called them with all the information that they needed. I gave them voltages. I gave them everything. That way, they weren't waiting for me to go check all this stuff, okay? So I didn't just call tech support and ask them how to do my job. I called tech support and I said, hey, I've done my job, but I also need a little bit of help here. How do I do this? How do I confirm, you know, this or whatever, okay? So it's okay to lean on technical support. It really is. Don't let people pressure you. I think I mentioned it in the video that I get people giving me crap all the time. I'm not offended by it. I'm not too proud to call technical support at all. But I do get people that think like, oh yeah, you don't need to lean on those guys. Well, yeah, I do, because I don't want to have that knowledge in my head because I don't have room for it. I've got all kinds of other crap that doesn't need to be in my head. The last thing I need is some silly how to, you know, program a VFD on a Prodigy unit, okay? But that's also what installation and operation manuals are for. So do yourself a favor and read them as much as possible. But there's a point when I have a manual for the VFD, it's like, I'm just going to call tech support for that, okay? So that was the VFD video. As far as the chat goes, guys, I am going to go ahead and go on to the second video, and then I'll start addressing the chat. I'm not going to hit that one quite yet, okay? So the next one was the real big one that everybody wants to talk about, okay? And that was the Roach video, okay? I had a reach-in cooler, and the title of the video was, Are Roaches Really That Bad? Okay? So I am not very disgusted with roaches. Like, it was kind of frustrating, like, opening it up, but it is what it is. I see that stuff often. Now, this particular customer, their restaurants are not all infested with roaches, okay? It'd be one thing if I went to every one of their restaurants and they were just filled with roaches. That's not the case, okay? Stuff happens, okay? This one happens to be in a particular part of town that's older, okay? So when you get into older cities and that are near big industrial complexes and shopping malls and different stuff like that, you tend to have some issues, okay? So they had a pest problem. Now, yes, it was gross, but the customer took care of it, okay? The customer remedied the situation. They went ahead and called the pest people. The first time, it didn't eradicate everything. So then when I went back out there to do it, to look at something again, then I said, hey, there's still a problem. And I left the reach-in outside, and I said, you guys need to fumigate this. I literally told them, put a damn bag over the reach-in, have them fumigate it, leave it outside for a couple days. I'll be back. Okay. Then I ordered the compressor, and I came back and I returned, and the problem was solved. At least there was nothing living in there at the moment. Now there's always the possibility that there's eggs and different things like that, but hey, you know, but they did a pretty good job at removing everything. So, but that stuff doesn't really freak me out too much. I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of jaded. I guess I don't know if jaded's quite the right word for that, but that's what comes to mind. It doesn't really bother me too much. Okay. I mean, I went ahead, though, and I covered my butt. So when I first walked up to the reach-in and I saw the roach infestation, and they were literally coming out of the controls. I don't have very good video. That little clip I showed at the beginning, that was a tiny little clip. But I thought I got really good clip, because when I pulled the temp control out, I was like shaking the control, and like the mama roach came out, and like all these babies were flying out of it. And then the same thing with the other controls too. So in that situation, I didn't even give the customer the option. I just said, look, if I'm going to work on this thing, all these electrical components get changed, period. No choice. It doesn't matter if they're working or not. 2 new temperature controllers, a new time clock, and then we're going to start with that. And in that situation, I gave them all the information, and that's what we did. We started with that. I went out there with the parts, and guess what? It didn't solve the problem. There was still more. We had a refrigerant leak. We had a compressor issue. And what's weird was when I first went out there, the top section was still working, and it was down to temperature. So that means that the refrigerant leak literally happened from, you know, when I diagnosed it, put the new controls in there, or between when I diagnosed it and came out to put the new controls in there, that's when the refrigerant leak happened. Because when I went back out the second time, it was completely flat on refrigerant. So, and that's a very common, that refrigerant leak that was on the compressor. That's a very common place on those Danfoss compressors, is to leak on the suction stub tube. The way that they are installed and set up, it's like a whole thing. But yeah, that's why. And the manufacturer actually had that service bulletin where they wanted me to use the Cork tape to solve that problem. So, all right, I'm going to take a look at the chat here, guys. And I'm going to see what we got going on in the chat. So keep in mind, guys, in the live stream chat, do me a favor. If you have questions or things you want me to talk about, put them in caps lock as usual, and I'll definitely try to get to it. If I don't get to all the questions, don't worry. Just send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com, or you can feel free to use the Discord server as a place to put questions. There's actually a room in there. I don't know if you call them rooms or what. I'm still new to the Discord thing. But there's a place in the server to put questions to me, so maybe we'll start using that a little bit too. So, but anyways, any questions? Let's look at the chat and see what we got going on here. Excuse me. Great question, Greg. And I actually had that on my list. So Greg asked me, what shoes do I wear at work? What boots do I wear? Okay, so I wear boots, work boots. I have a requirement for my employees at my company that our boots be slip resistant, that they be some sort of safety toe, okay, composite or steel toe, and that they have some sort of water resistance to them too, okay. Really, the biggest thing is steel toe or safety toe and or slip resistant. That's the most important thing, okay. And, we don't like them to get all holy and crap like that. So I personally use the Timberland Pro Boondock work boots, okay? I've used them for a very long time. I like them very much. Yes, my feet get a little bit hot in them. There's no perfect work boot out there, okay? But I wear the same boot in the summer and the winter time. It does me well. They do pretty good at slip resistance. There's no boot that's perfect with slip resistance, but the Timberland Pros do good. There's also something that when you're working in slippery environments, you have to learn how to walk, okay? I walk flat-footed. I don't walk on my toes, because if I walk on my toes or my heels, then you're going to fall on your butt. I know it sounds a little weird, but you have to learn how to walk flat-footed especially when you're working in restaurants. You walk flat-footed, and you also don't, just walk in there without you have to learn how to walk and feel it out and not look like a duck when you're walking around, trying not to slip and stuff, okay? But yeah, Timberland Pro Boondocks, I've worn them for a very long time. I would say at least 5 or 6 years. I go through... Lately, about one pair every 9 months, 9 to 10 months, I get a pair of new Timberland Pros. They're quite expensive. I think they're just under $200 or right around $200. But it's one of those things you got to do, okay? Everybody has a preference on boots that they like. I happen to like the Timberland Pros, and they're just very comfortable for me. So really, really dig that. All right, let's see what else. What about symptoms of an overcharged system on a walk-in freezer? Great question, J.A. Okay, so here's the deal. First off, on a refrigeration system, most walk-in freezers are going to have an expansion valve and a receiver. So on a refrigeration system that has a receiver and an expansion valve, we typically don't use subcooling as a charging metric, but we can use subcooling as a gross overcharging metric. What that means is I don't typically charge to subcooling, right? So I don't go for 10 degrees subcooling when I'm working on a system with the receiver. What you do is when you're adding refrigerant to the system, you clear the sight glass, assuming that there's no restrictions in the lines. There's lots of caveats to that, okay? And assuming that the system is not completely overloaded and all that stuff. I've got it in lots of videos how to do that. So you clear the sight glass. Okay, next thing you do is when you get the system charged up, okay, you charge to a clear sight glass, looking at all your vitals. You don't just look at the sight glass, okay? It's not just a really simple answer. You don't just charge to a clear sight glass. I still am going to pay attention to subcooling, but I'm going to look at the subcooling to know that on my systems that I typically work on, my subcooling, again, we don't use this as a metric, but my subcooling is around 5 degrees, 3 to 5 degrees subcooling coming directly out of the condenser, okay? But what we can do is we can look at that, and if we start seeing a subcooling that's like 30, 35 degrees, then there's a very good possibility that we have an overcharge situation, okay? But we don't use subcooling to find, normal charge, right? Now, the next thing that you're going to do is you can use saturation temperatures. You kind of have to understand the age of your equipment to know what the condensing temperature over ambient is. Again, we don't use condensing temp over ambient as a standalone metric, but we do use it to kind of get us in the ballpark. Also, we're going to pay attention to evaporate or superheat. That's going to basically be dialed in once the system starts coming down to temp, okay? So as far as your question, how do you tell if there's an overcharged on a walk-in freezer system? Okay, first off, don't guess. Make sure the condenser's clean. And I mean, when clean, I mean clean, okay? Sparkly clean. You should be able to see right through that condenser, okay? If there's any lint in there, you need to clean it better, all right? Make sure the condenser fan motor's running in the right direction. Make sure you've got good airflow across the condenser. Start adding refrigerant. Clear the sight glass, paying attention to all your vitals, obviously checking compressor amps too, but compressor amps, again, is not a vital that you use as a charging metric. When I'm doing a charge, when I'm charging a refrigeration system, I'm going to clear the sight glass, I'm going to monitor the subcooling, I'm going to monitor the compressor amps, and I'm going to slowly add gas, not overloading the compressor. And again, just because it goes above run load, give it a second. It'll drop back down as the system stabilizes out, okay? Keep adding gas until your sight glass clears up. But it's very important that you understand that a sight glass is only a window into the system at the exact point that the sight glass is installed. So if it's installed on the outlet of the receiver on the roof, there's a very good possibility that you could have a restriction after the sight glass. So charging to a clear sight glass doesn't necessarily mean it has the right refrigerant, okay? So it's not a real simple thing, but cliff notes, pay attention to the subcooling, clear the sight glass, check the compressor amps, make sure it doesn't get overloaded, okay? And make sure that you have a good condensing temp over ambient. Maximum condensing temp over ambient on pretty much any of the systems that you're working on out there is going to be about 28 to 30 degrees. You don't want to go anything over that typically. Even on newer systems, you might go as low as 20 degrees, 15 degrees, maybe 18, something like that, okay? So hopefully that answers your question. If it doesn't, send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Guys, let me make this clear. I don't know everything, okay? And when I'm trying to figure stuff out for refrigeration, what I'm going to do, hold on, is I'm going to grab this book right here, Commercial Refrigeration for Air Conditioning Technicians by Mr. Dick Wurz, okay? It's published by the company called Cengage. You guys can actually find this in the show notes of this live stream. There is an Amazon link for that book. That book is an amazing book to help you with refrigeration, and basically it was written for an air conditioning technician that already knows what he's doing to transition into the refrigeration field, okay? Amazing book, and it's worth every penny. I think it might be like $200 or something like that. It's worth it. Trust me, okay? So Commercial Refrigeration for Air Conditioning Technicians by Dick Wurz. Check it out. Read it, live it, love it, okay? All right, let's move on. what progression do I expect an apprentice with no prior experience to acquire in 1 year? What do I expect an apprentice to acquire in a year? You know, it really depends on every single apprentice, okay? So if I start with an apprentice fresh out of school, he's never gotten his hands on an air conditioner besides in trade school. Ideally, I want him to ride with me or, you know, shadow me for 3 to 6 months. It used to be that he rode in my van, but nowadays we're not doing ride-alongs with the virus thing. So I want him to shadow me for 3 to 6 months, somewhere in there. And at that point, I'm going to slowly start letting the leash off, baby steps, okay? So I'm going to start letting him clean condensers and move on. But within a year, I would hope that an apprentice can slowly be able to know exactly what I need before I need it, okay? I would expect him to be able to do basic preventative maintenances, to maintain equipment, check current draw, check all vital signs, be able to apply service gauges, recover, evacuate, charge. I would expect him to be able to do that. Heavy troubleshooting, not so much. It's going to take him some time for that, but hopefully that answers your question. Again, thank you for that super chat, Knock a Fire and Security. Very, very awesome, man. That's awesome. And I saw Spotterman. Hey, bud. What is it that I'm curious. What is it that and when you're in timeout right now because you were talking crap apparently, but what is it about me that makes you think I'm a hack? I'm very curious. I'd like to know. So when you pop out of the timeout thing, I'd be really curious to know what about me makes you think that I'm a hack. I'm okay. I'm okay with criticism. That's okay. But I mean, you don't really got to be kind of a dick about it and say that I'm a hack. I mean, if you really, really think that I'm explaining something incorrectly, then say, hey, bud, I don't think that's right. You know, you can use big boy words and talk normal. I'm cool with that. Okay. I'm okay with criticism. I'm totally okay with it. All right. But you don't got to be a jerk about it. Tell me, what is it that you think I did wrong? I'm always curious to know. If you don't want to say it in the live stream, that's fine. Send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. I'm always willing to accept criticism. Okay. All right, let's see what else. What tools do I provide for my technicians and what do they have to provide? So at our service company, I'm not everybody, okay, but at our service company, we provide all the big tools. We provide an oxyacetylene torch kit. We provide recovery machines, vacuum pumps, you know, any big materials. Basically, it's easier to say what I don't provide. I don't provide a manifold gauge set. I don't provide smart probes. I don't provide a cordless drill, and I don't provide their basic hand tools in a tool bag. Okay, so that's basically what I expect them to bring. For the most part, we provide everything else. Okay, we don't need airflow meters and things like that doing what I do. So basically, you know, we provide them with the torch, the vacuum pump, the recovery machine. We have other tools at the shop. We have certain benders and different things like that. Sometimes the guys like to bring their own benders. That's fine, you know. But for the most part, we provide all the big stuff. So exactly, we are all hacks, no matter how much. You know what? I am probably one of the best people at doing hack jobs, okay? But the difference is, the most important thing is that you have to know the right way to do something. Guess what? I take shortcuts sometimes, guys. I don't always pull a perfect vacuum. I don't always, you know, do everything by the book, right? I think recently I just did an expansion valve job, and I think someone pointed out in the video that I strapped a sensing bulb to the top of the 7/8 inch suction line. Good point, okay? I am going to argue that on a 7/8 inch suction line, it really doesn't matter. The top of the thing's not that big of a deal. From 7/8, Sporlin basically says, I believe, from 7/8 and up, you're supposed to really start setting it at like 3 to 9, or, you know, that third position right there. But I mean, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes all the time, okay? Even in that video too, that the guy said I was a hack because I strapped it to the top of the suction line, the sensing bulb was hanging off 3/4 of an inch. There was nothing I could do. It is what it is, okay? So long as I made sure it was working, and so long as I understand how it works, I think that's the most important thing, okay? So we all have a little bit of hack in us, guys. All right, let's see what else we got. Yeah, exactly. LM Sylvia. He says his hacking powers have gotten his customers out of serious binds. Dead straight, okay? Sometimes you have to do what you have to do to get the system operational. I've done some funny things. Guys, condenser fan motors failed on a weekend, and it's the middle of the night, and I didn't want to open a supply house. Hey, man, I have that spraying wand that I use to clean condensers with. I'm always preaching about it. It's a Orbit wand from Lowe's, right? I set that thing up on some cinder blocks, put it on mist, put it on the condenser, and walked away for the rest of the weekend because I didn't even want to change it for the rest of the week in condenser fan motor. So I had a sprayer spraying on the condenser all weekend. It had a head pressure control valve. It was fine. You know, I'm not saying leaving something like that forever. I've put box fans on top of like dishwasher exhaust fans before temporarily just to get them, you know, through the night kind of thing. Yeah, I've done all kinds of things like that, guys. Sometimes you have to do what you have to do, okay? It's important, though, that you really, I would strongly suggest that you don't ever bypass any safeties that can cause serious damage. Yeah, that one's kind of questionable. But I mean, I've gotten belts from the auto parts store to get an exhaust fan running for the weekend until I can go back with a proper V belt. I mean, I've done all kinds of weird things like that. So you got to do what you got to do sometimes to get the customer operational. Will Murthan, you said you're replacing a package unit at your house and you just sealed your rigid duct system with mastic. Is it possible for a homeowner to test and calibrate airflow without specialized equipment or for only $75 or so? No, not really. You're not really going to test and check airflow per se. If you did the work yourself, then so be it. Good for you. If you could figure it out, you know, that's cool. I would highly suggest that if you're really concerned about the airflow, that you at least pay an airflow company to come out. It's not going to cost you that much to get an airflow certification. They'll just come out and test it. They're not changing anything. They're literally going to come out and measure it for you. There's not really anything that I can tell you to do, easy ways to measure airflow, because airflow is actually one of the hardest things to measure in our trade. They make silly tools and different things like that. I have some of them, but I mean, they're all an estimation in one form or another, so it's really not just a simple throw it in there and it tells you a number. So I would highly suggest, if you're really concerned about it, that you at least have an airflow company come out. I would imagine that you could probably have an airflow company come out for maybe $500, maybe. Less than 1,000 for sure. Less than 1,000, absolutely for sure. They would come out and do an airflow verification on your building, but I would bet it's even closer to $500 or something like that. So hey, you know what? So be it. All right, flat rate versus time and materials. Brian, that's a really interesting question. It's kind of hard for me because I'm a commercial refrigeration contractor, so my commercial customers would not accept flat rate to save their lives because they want time and materials, period. So we're a time and materials company. With that being said, I don't use flat rate. I can understand why flat rate is a good thing for homeowners because they see the price they're going to pay. But at the same time, as a contractor, I know that flat rate pricing can also be a little misleading in a weird way too. And I'm not saying that people are ripping people off, but I mean, you know, okay, so you price everything like this. Hey, to do a condenser coil cleaning is going to cost X number of dollars. Okay, looks like your system's low on gas. To do a leak check is going to cost X number of dollars. Okay, so then you add that to that. Whereas, you know, on a time and materials thing, it's easier for me to go in and say, hey, you know what? I charge this much an hour. I'm going to clean it. That'll take me about 2 hours. Then I'm going to do a leak check. That'll take me about this much time. But the flat rate gives the customer a price and they know what they're going to get at every single step of the way. Time and materials, they don't know that. I mean, I'm giving them an estimation, but I'm not guaranteeing it's going to take me 2 hours to clean it. I'm telling them, look, I'm going to say it's approximately 2 hours, but it might go over that. So it's that thing, you know, what do? Most homeowners, I'd imagine, would like that set price. They want to know, hey, to get my system cleaned and recharged is going to cost me this much, period. Not necessarily fixing leaks or anything like that. So it's a hard one. I'm personally more of a time and materials person, but again, I'm just a commercial guy. I see both sides. So, all right. Let me see what else we got in here. Kai the Avatar, can you take the heat pump out of a general fridge and use it as an air conditioner? I think you're a little mistaken when you say the heat pump, okay, because I'm assuming you're talking about the compressor. Can you take the compressor out of a general refrigerator and use it as an air conditioning compressor? No, and here's why, okay? A refrigeration compressor, the refrigerant coming back to the compressor cools the compressor off, okay? And it requires that certain temperature. So I'd imagine that a domestic refrigerator at your home is probably going to look for maybe a 0 degree suction temperature, maybe 10 degree suction temperature coming back to the compressor. On an air conditioner, your suction temperature is going to be much higher coming back to the compressor. And over time, theoretically, it could overload the compressor could overheat, and it would burn out. So in that situation, you're going to want to get a dedicated air conditioning compressor that can handle that higher suction gas temp coming back, and the system needs to be properly rated for it. Plus, on top of that, The refrigerator compressors typically are meant to operate with different refrigerants than the compressor for an air conditioner is meant to operate with too, okay? Would it work for a short period of time? Sure, I'm sure you could do some MacGyver skills action going on, and you could probably get it to work temporarily, but is it going to be a long-term item? No, definitely not, okay? Why does the work ethic suck nowadays? It seems to be getting worse. Very, very true, okay? It's very hard. I don't know what it is. Well, I do. I have theories on what it is. I mean, it's the generations as they come up. So my parents, you know, they provided so many things for me, right? Now I provide even more for my kids. So theoretically, my kids are not going to have to work as hard as I had to work to get what I had, and vice versa. My parents didn't have to work as hard as their parents didn't have to work. So every generation does more for their kids because they want their kids' lives to be easier, which sounds great. We all do it because we love our kids and we don't want them to have to struggle so hard, right? You know, my kids are afforded luxuries that I was never afforded. My kids, you know, don't think twice when they say they want to go out to dinner. When I was a kid, we didn't go out to dinner unless it was a birthday. That was like once or, well, we were lucky because I had a brother and a sister, so we got to go to dinner 3 times a year, maybe 4 or 5 if we went for mom and dad's stuff too. Now we take our kids to dinner all the time. So, you know, but part of that's because I've worked hard and I want to go to dinner all the time, you know? So, with that being said, why is the work ethic changed? I think it's because we do more and we don't expect our kids to do stuff, right? Coming up, you know, I was treated a lot harsher than my kids were treated. And it's nothing against my dad or my mom or anybody, but things were expected of me. Things were said to me that I don't necessarily say to my kids, you know? So it's us, I think, that's responsible for the generation becoming less likely to work hard, is because we're babying our kids. But what's the alternative? I love taking care of my kids. I love the fact that my kids don't have to work as hard. So it's that fine line of trying to be a good, loving parent and or trying to be a tough love parent that your kids are going to be great but resent you in the future. You know, that's a hard one. All right. Grocery stores have huge number of compressors. Do they have in-house techs? It really depends. Some grocery stores do, some don't. Every chain does it differently. Locally here, we have Stater Brothers. Stater Brothers is a big Southern California grocery chain, and they have their own in-house techs. But they, if I remember correctly, I believe they call on the weekends. I believe they use other companies, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I've seen other service companies at Stater Brothers on the weekends, but never during the weekdays, I think. But, you know, different grocery stores do it differently. I don't think the Kroger brands have their own techs, but I'm not a supermarket tech, so I'm not 100% sure. But I know that there used to be some Walmart in-house techs, but then I don't think they do in-house anymore. So I think it goes back and forth. The biggest problem, guys, is labor costs. Labor costs and having to deal with employees. That's the biggest issue with hiring your own service technicians. For a grocery store, let's just say for a restaurant chain in general, hey, we could save money. We could have our own service techs. That sounds great. I've seen it happen. But then they realize one of the service techs gets hurt and they have a workers' comp claim, a big workers' comp claim. You know, the insurance is higher, the vehicle insurance, all this different stuff. For most of the time, people find it easier and less of a hassle to hire outside companies to come do their service work, and then they just scrutinize the outside companies and just burn through them left and right. So, but yeah, a lot of different grocery stores have their in-house, but then a lot don't. So it really changes every time. All right, let's see what else we got. Are there any restaurants I service that I wouldn't take my family out to? Great question, and that's going to kind of segue into another thing too. So on my list, someone had asked me, do I eat at my restaurants? And this came up after the Roach video, okay? So the Roach video that I released this last week was pretty nasty. And the question is, would I eat at that restaurant? Guys, yes, I would, okay? Because I know that the restaurant did a good job, and I see that kind of stuff all the time. But in general, I don't eat out at restaurants very often, or at least the restaurants that I work at, okay? And it's not because I don't like their food. I choose to, like, I'd rather go to, I do a lot of casual dining restaurants. That's what I work for. And I don't really want to go eat at a restaurant and sit down. For the most part, I like to go to fast casual restaurants, or occasionally I like to go to a nice steakhouse or something like that. And I really don't do work for a nice steakhouse. So it's not that I think my restaurants are gross, but I also I work at a lot of burger places and I don't want to eat burgers. You know, I used to eat out a lot. I used to accept food from my customers. And what actually started to happen, my customers would always give me food all the time. Even to this day, they offer me food and I just say, no, thank you. you know? And then they say, why? You don't want to eat our food? And I said, do you eat your food? And I said, it's not that it's gross. It's just that I'm here watching you prepare it every day and I just don't want a hamburger. You know, that's just not what I want. So I'd rather go out to sushi or go to a Thai place or something like that. Get something that's just different, right? But anyways, I used to eat out at my restaurants all the time. And what happened was they would, you know, I'd be at a restaurant and they'd say, hey, do you want a burger and fries? And I'd say, sure. And I'd get a burger and fries. And then I'd go home and my wife says, hey, we want to go out for burgers and fries tonight. I just had that for lunch. Yeah. So I stopped as principal accepting food from my customers just for the fact that I wanted to go out to dinner with my family in the evening. And then it kind of went away from that. And we eat home more than we eat out. It really is a treat for us to go out. We definitely do it more than when I was a kid. But, you know, my wife, she's laid off right now because she was a waitress at a restaurant. So she's been making my lunch every day and it's been kind of cool. I've been, you know, I don't feel gross after I eat a nice, you know, turkey sandwich or something for lunch. So instead of eating fast food all the time, I'm just sick of eating gross stuff and feeling like crap or regretting it, you know, later on. So, all right, let's get to something else. I had a question. Actually, Greg had asked me another good question. Greg had asked me, have I ever fallen off a ladder? I've said this before on my streams before. Yes, I have. I have fallen off a ladder. I was working at a restaurant and I was in a hurry and I was climbing up onto the roof. They had a stationary ladder that was attached to the building. So it was a straight ladder going up and I was one-handing it because I had my oxyacetylene torch in my right hand and I was one-handing it, you know, reaching up every rung, you know. And I literally went to the top rung and I missed it. And I fell backwards right off the ladder. The ladder was about probably 25 feet up. I'm holding my torch caddy. And guys, that fall, I swear I had so much stuff go through my head as I started to fall. I remember thinking, literally in my head as I was falling, my thoughts exactly were, I do not have enough money saved up to get hurt. That was the thought that went through my head as I was falling down. And I just kind of like, okay, here it goes. You know, I just accepted it. I let go of my torches and I just said, okay. And I fell and then something caught my fall. Luckily, as I was climbing up the side of the building, they had they had a cage around their back dock and I had to climb up through a scuttle hole in the cage. And it was a chain link fence over the entire roof or the entire, you know, the entire top of the back dock basically. And I fell onto the chain link fence like I fell on a hammock. Right between the two beams that hold it together. And as I was going, there was, if you guys can picture this, there was a scuttle access, and the scuttle access you open up, and what stopped it was a giant piece of metal fence, chain link fence pole. Okay. That chain link fence pole was a stopper for that scuttle hole access. I landed right next to that thing and it was poking up and I landed right next to it, right next to my arm. So I was lucky I didn't fall on that because that would have hurt me a lot. I was super, super blessed to be okay. And my torch caddy fell on the chain link fence too and it didn't explode. I changed a lot. That was probably, if I had to guess, 6 or 7 years ago that happened. Guys, I'd climbed so many ladders in my life, never fallen off a ladder. I have no fear. I have respect, but I have no fear when I'm climbing a ladder, just boom, 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 you know? And that was the moment, man. I remember thinking I do not have enough money saved up. And I'm so thankful that I landed on that chain link fence. I did not get hurt one bit other than being embarrassed and walking away because there was a bunch of guys watching me. And they're like, where did he go? Because they saw me on the roof and then I disappeared. They all came running and I was just laying there on the chain link fence. So from that point forward, I got that rope out of my van. I put the hook on the end that you guys see in my videos all the time. And I started roping all my stuff to the roof. I'm too old to get hurt like that. Doesn't matter how old you are. You don't want to fall off a ladder. So, yes, I have fallen off a ladder. Guys, safety, especially as I've gotten older, has become such an important thing. I am so concerned about safety. So recently, I have this on my list too. This last week, we did a crane lift, okay? We did a crane lift, just a simple 15-ton package unit, really easy lift, no major obstacles, okay? But before, and I never used to do this, but I do this now. Before we do every lift, I pull everybody aside and I do a safety meeting. I know it sounds stupid. I know it sounds silly, but we do a safety meeting and I just reiterate to everybody, okay, here's your job. Here's your job and here's my job. I'm the crane signal person. I'm watching out for you guys. I'm expecting when I ask you a question, I look at one guy, I want you to tell me, you know, he handles the left and right, and then the other guy handles the front and the back. So I'm directing the crane. You tell me when it's centered over the curb, basically, okay? And then you tell me when this is, and, you know, we kind of get ready. We do our game face on, you know, and we kind of talk about everything before. And then I instruct them, okay? Every time. They're probably sick of hearing me say this. Guys, do not get under the load. What happens if the crane falls over? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? We try to be as prepared as possible, okay? We try to do lifts when there's nobody in the building. It's not always practical, but for the most part, we don't ever let there be customers in the building. So we don't, unless, and I don't think I've ever had to do a lift when there was a customer in the building, because accidents happen, guys. Guess what? My package unit weighs 3,000 pounds. If my package unit dropped, it probably wouldn't go through the roof all the way to the ground. It might damage the roof, but if that crane falls, it's going to go through the roof, okay? So we kind of prepare for all of that stuff. We think of the worst case scenario and we look, okay, what direction is the crane going to set the old air conditioner on? Which way is he going to come? Is there any power lines? We look for everything before. Safety is the biggest thing. The reason why I bring up the crane is over the weekend locally here at a local hospital that I actually used to do work for a very long time ago, there was a crane accident, guys. There was a giant crane, one of those big cranes that lifts air handlers up onto high-rise buildings. This particular crane, they finished the job is the way that I read the newspaper article. They finished the job and they were dismantling the crane. This crane is so big, if you guys haven't ever seen one of these, it has like 2 trucks that come behind the actual crane that's driving down the road, and they have to assemble the crane on site. Well, when they were assembling or disassembling the crane fell over onto the building. Luckily, nobody was hurt, but you should see the damage from this. And it's a trip too, because it's a place where I used to work a long time ago. So I recognize everything. When I saw the pictures, I was like, oh my gosh, I used to work there. I know that hit inches away from the engineering building where all the engineers sit. It fell on a trash can area, and it's so dangerous, but I'm so happy to read in the article, if everything is still the same, there was nobody injured. Guys, that is a crew that really, really thought about safety. Even when the most horrible accident in the world happened, nobody was injured. Wow. That is so cool because they were prepared and, you know, they really, really thought about safety. So safety is the biggest thing, guys, okay? We take shortcuts in our career all the time. We need to be careful about that kind of stuff, okay? I am a little bit relaxed and probably not cautious enough when it comes to electricity. I work on 480 volts. I don't have a beekeeper suit. I probably should, okay? It's things like that. We need to be more careful, okay? Because guess what? This job that you and I do, that I do, that you do, it's not worth our lives. Because guess what? If we don't come home, more than likely the company's going to go on and your family's going to be less one person. Think about that. For something simple as you not verifying that something was off before you stuck your hands in it. Guys, you didn't go home. And your wife or your brother or your husband or whatever didn't get to see you again. Your kids, it's not worth it, guys. It's just a job. It's not worth your life. Think about that. Slow down and pay attention. I'm guilty of it too. I need to pay attention. I need to slow down. I need to be more concerned about safety. All right. Andy Kilsue, why do commercial HVAC units tend to top out at 2 stages when residentials go to 5 stages? Oh, that's not necessarily true. Residential goes to 5 stages because they usually use inverter-driven compressors, and you can actually go further than that with inverter-driven compressors. And we actually have those in commercial too. But for the most part, your thermostat, I don't do a lot of the inverter-driven compressors, but for the most part, your thermostat's going to have logic built into it, and I don't know if they quite call it stages, okay? But on commercial, we just break it down to 2 to 3 stages for the most part, and we can have inverter-driven compressors in our units too. I actually have, I think, one Train Voyager package unit that has the variable speed 10-ton scroll compressor in it, so it can slow down and speed up, different things like that. But it gets kind of tricky when you start doing inverter driven, unless you get into the really, really complex controls that actually slow down. For a proper system to work good, if you have an inverter driven compressor, you need to have an inverter driven blower that slows down and speeds up with the compressor too, so that you can maintain suction temp and all that good stuff. All right. What's the highest voltage I've ever been zapped by? 120, 240, 480, or 600? Well, if I got zapped by 600, more than likely I wouldn't be here. If you got zapped by true 480, you probably wouldn't be here either, okay? Most people are zapped by one leg of 240, which theoretically would be 120, or one leg of 120, okay, for the most part. I'm not saying people don't get hit by bigger stuff, but Okay. Most of us service technicians that work in commercial and or residential are only going to be dealing with 240 volts, maybe 480 volts, but even 480, if you're only hit by one leg, it's 240, right? Unless you're completely getting screwed by it. So what have I've been shocked by 120. I've never been hitting with 277 or 240 or anything like that. So, let me see what else I got. Okay, so I got a couple more things on my list that I want to talk about. I covered that. I'm kind of marking off things that I have on my list. I already covered that one. I had a great question about R22 replacements. Someone asked before the stream, we were kind of chatting in the chat room, and they were asking me if I've ever used insert name of drop-in refrigerant. Guys, I've only used a few R22 replacements. In fact, I think I've only used one R22 replacement, 427A. And I'm not a fan of refrigerant replacements, okay? And what I'm going to say, I'm going to preface this with saying, first off, any information I'm about to give you right now is just my opinions, okay? I have a buddy. His name is Ralph. He works for Honeywell Refrigerants. I always post his information in here. He is the true person to talk about when it comes to refrigerant replacements, okay? So I'm going to give you my horror story with it. So I went to my local supply house and I said, hey, I'm about to change an R22 compressor. This was about 5 years ago when the prices were really going high. And I said, I think I want to get on top of it, and I think I want to use a replacement. And he said, oh, yeah, they told me, yeah, use this one. This is the most popular one. You don't have to do an oil change. It's all good. It'll be easy. And they said, people have used it. They love it. So I trusted the supply house. I used the refrigerant, and I got hosed. Okay, I was working on a Train Voyager unit. I used 427A. I had a 3D scroll 10-ton compressor. I put 427A in it. It ran fine. I had perfect superheat. Came back the next day. The compressor was bad. What the heck? I ordered a new compressor. I called the manufacturer. I said, there's a warranty problem. This compressor failed from startup. They gave me a new 10-ton compressor. We got the new 10-ton compressor on the roof, which is a feat in itself. We installed the new 10-ton compressor. 2 days later, came back. The compressor was bad. What? Okay, now I realized it wasn't a fluke and I did something wrong. What happened here? So I started scouring the internet. What did I do wrong? I measured everything. At the time, I was using the iManifold system. I had iManifold reports saying what my superheat was. It was perfect. We were using target superheat in that situation. It was a fixed orifice Train Voyager. And what I figured out was that we had an oil return problem, okay? Something about the 3D scroll compressors. Train has since released a service bulletin saying don't use, and it had mineral oil in it, by the way, guys, okay? So mineral oil doesn't travel well with 427A. I trusted the supply house in telling me, and when you open up the installation instructions for 427A, it actually says works best with polyester oil, but will work okay with mineral, okay? Guys, you have to read the installation instructions for all these different refrigerants. Every one of them that I have ever read tells you that they work best with polyester oil, okay? But they will work okay with this unless there's high pressure drops, unless there's this, unless there's that. So basically that means that they work best with polyester oil, okay? So personally, I don't use the R22 replacements anymore. I just use R22. My customers are happy with it. If my customers wanted me to use a replacement, I would certainly do it. More than likely, I would use 407C, my personal choice, and I would do an oil change on the system to polyester oil. But then you ask, well, how do you change oil in an air conditioning compressor? That's a good question because there's no oil ports typically, right? You're tipping over that compressor or you're pulling the suction line and pumping the oil out. It's a pain in the butt. So there's nothing really easy about it. Now, I realize some people say, yeah, but you just add a couple ounces of polyester oil. That's not my style, guys. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to just change the oil. I'm not going to add in just a little bit of oil and different stuff like that. I'm going to do a full oil change on it and change over to 407C or just change the compressor. Sometimes it might be cheaper. If you're going to do that, you might as well just change the compressor. In that situation, maybe the customer would consider replacing the unit. Who knows, okay? But that's just my 2 cents. I'm not an expert on the matter. I just don't use alternative refrigerants. So let me see what I'm missing in the chat. If I'm missing anything, guys, make sure you put it in caps lock. Have I used any Husky products? Yeah, like Husky tools. I've used, I think I used some Husky ratchet wrenches and Husky 6-in-1 screwdrivers and stuff like that. Yeah, they work fine. All right, what data tag RLA for compressor or condenser fan motor usually different? Today you found a data tag of a Linux was 1.3 for the condenser fan motor, yet the unit tripped high head. Great question. Okay, so well, data tag, I don't know what you're saying, but I'm going to kind of answer what I think you're asking me. So if you have a aftermarket condenser fan motor and you try to put it on a Linux unit, what you're going to typically notice is that the motor size is totally different. So what I mean is you go to, let's just say, a Linux package unit, and it has a 1/3 horsepower condenser fan motor in it, 1075, 208 volt, single phase, right? 2.8 amps, I think is what it is typically. Okay, so if you go to the supply house and you go get a 1/3 horsepower condenser fan motor, look at the current draw on that 1/3 horsepower condenser fan motor. Sometimes it may change. So when you're finding a replacement motor, you should always try to stick with OEM as much as possible, okay? Try to make sure you go back with OEM fan blades, okay? And if you're going to use an aftermarket motor, you need to pay attention to the current draw on the aftermarket motor. Okay, so you pay attention to the shaft size, the RPMs. Don't so much look at the horsepower, but look at the current draw. And your current draw needs to match the same current draw of the existing bad motor or old motor in the system. I'm going to use Carrier as an example. Carrier is notorious for this. They have a 1/3 horsepower condenser fan motor on their package units, but the current draw on it is the same current draw as if it was a 1/2 horsepower aftermarket condenser fan motor. Okay, so you need to pay attention to that. Now, here's the problem with using aftermarket though. Let's say you go to a 1/2 horsepower condenser fan motor and that motor hangs upside down like on a Carrier unit. And I actually recently showed this in a video. When you go to a 1/2 horsepower condenser fan motor, the stack on the motor is about 2 inches taller than the old 1/3 horsepower motor or 1/4 horsepower, whatever it was. So therefore, your condenser fan blade is going to sit too low in the shroud, and it's going to recirc air back into the condenser area, and you're going to have high head pressure. So I don't know if I quite answered your question, but it's very important that you try to stay OEM with condenser fan motors. And if you can't, you always pay attention to where that condenser fan blade sits in the stack and the actual current draw to make sure that you size a motor via the current draw and not so much the horsepower. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question for you, bud. All right, how do I handle on-call rotation between me and my guys? So my company does it a little bit differently. So we have an on-call rotation where one technician gets 1 day during the week, and one technician is going to be responsible for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay, so the way that that works is we have 5 days in the week. So you have 3 technicians that cover the on-call, and then, or actually you have, 7 days during the week. What am I thinking? Okay, so you have 5 days during the week, okay, and then one technician is going to get Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you're never on call for a week at a time, and then that schedule rotates every week. So the technician that was on call Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, he's not going to be on call till Thursday of the next week. And then every week he goes back one until he gets back up to the front. I know it probably makes more sense on paper, but we do a rotating schedule. And the reason why I did that was because I used to get exhausted when I was on call for a week at a time, especially when we had crazy heat waves and it was slammed and you were getting like 65 hours during the week, 70 hours. And it didn't, first off, the IRS loved that because they take half your freaking paycheck, but it just sucked. So we only do, the most you're on call per week is 3 days. That's it. And everybody else gets 1 day during the week, and then you rotate around. So hopefully that makes sense for you. All right. What is that round black circle on the ground? Round black circle. Oh, that thing? That's a chair. It's like a yoga something or other. My wife, oh, hey, let's talk about this right now. My wife has been helping me out. You guys see all those? Those are merch orders right there. Guys, look at that shelf behind me. It's getting thinned out. You guys have been killing it on the merch orders. We have the shirts, the hats, hvacrvideos.com. You guys can check it out there. There's all kinds of stuff. But my wife has been helping me out in the office because she has been packaging up and shipping all the merch. So she's got that chair in here because she likes to sit on that stupid exercise yoga ball. It's like a inflatable. I feel like I'm going to fall off the chair when I sit on it, but she likes it. So it's like a whatever, yoga ball with legs or something like that. But yeah, that's what that is. Hopefully that's what you're asking. Let's see what else. Do I have my employees wear EH rating shoes? I don't know what EH rating is, so probably not. How about the new Bluon R22 replacement? Apparently 458 TDX20, Sean Murphy. Okay, so I've never used Bluon. They certainly have a great marketing department. I have nothing bad to say about their product. Their marketing, not so much. I kind of maybe I shouldn't be so, maybe I shouldn't hold such a grudge, but I had a little incident with Bluon in their marketing. But as far as their product, I have nothing bad to say about their product, but I have never used it. Okay, I have heard good things about their product from people. So, But again, I have nothing bad to say. I can't comment on it. I do know that they claim that you don't have to do an oil change. Yeah, I'm not really into that. I'm still going to do an oil change. So, yeah, Greg, I think your shirt is in that pile because I remember seeing your shirt come through, I think. Okay. Let's see. Do I work on a lot of R290 units all the time? In fact, that Roach unit that I just made a video on was an R290 unit. So yes, I work on R290 all the time. At least once a week, we're working on an R290 unit. Oh, that's another great thing I wanted to talk about. So in the Roach video, where I worked on the R290 refrigerator, I changed the compressor and I charged it up and everything. And a few people caught it, but guess what, guys? I did not take the service fittings off of that compressor when I was done. I left the service fittings on. Some people had asked me, hey, are you allowed to do that? No, you're technically, if it's under warranty, you're supposed to remove the service fittings from the unit. But I don't know. I just got kind of lazy. And to be honest with you, I've been getting kind of frustrated with my pinch off tool that I've been using. I use the vice grip style. And about a month ago, I was using it and it broke while I was using it. Luckily, it was R290 and I was outside, so I just let the charge vent, but it was just like a whole pain. So I haven't been cutting off the ends. That's my personal preference. You know, don't necessarily do that because I do it, guys. Don't get yourselves in trouble. Cruxus Arcanium, thank you so very much for that super chat. And yeah, no problem for supporting USPS. USPS comes in. They do a good job with that, man. It makes it super easy because I do it all online. I print the shipping labels and I just drop it off and it's super easy. So, will you Hamilton, you want a blown up VFD? I don't know. Send me an email. Maybe I can come up on a blown up VFD. I'm sure I can find one. I've got them all over the shop. All right. Send me an email. Oh, wait. Hamilton, didn't you already buy a shirt? I thought you just bought a shirt. Maybe not. I thought I was sending one to you already. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else. Anyways, but yeah, send me an email. Do I let my guys wear shorts? No, we don't wear shorts for safety reasons because we're working around too many different things that they can hurt themselves, so we have to wear pants. The only requirement that I have is that my guys wear black pants or dark colored pants. Some of them they've worn black or brown ones, but I prefer black. But we provide them with shirts. We provide them with jackets, with sweaters, with gloves, safety glasses, all the proper PPE, but they have to bring their own pants and their own work boots. So, but no, we don't wear shorts. Do I carry R290 in the truck as truck stock or buy as needed due to temps in my area? Chris, I carry a couple cans of R290 in my truck at all times. Cross my fingers, never had a problem. Yeah. I even had like someone email me or send, because I posted on Facebook like a picture of my van and there was like 2 cans of R290 laying there and someone freaked out because I didn't have it secured. It was actually kind of funny. So someone had sent me a message on the Facebook post and they said, you need to have those cans properly secured. So I went and grabbed some zip ties and zip tied the 3 cans together and then sent the picture back to the person again and said, they won't rattle now. I know they meant they wanted me to have it strapped in the van somewhere, but no. I'm probably not as conscious about safety as I should be, but I carry it in the van all day long. So how do I change oil in a sealed compressor? It's a very difficult thing. You unsweat the compressor, you pour the oil out, you put new oil in, and you weld the compressor back in. Kind of sounds ridiculous, right? I've never done it, never had to do it, don't want to do it. It's almost, depending on how big the compressor it is, it might even be more practical to go ahead and replace the compressor. But yeah, changing oil in a sealed compressor is a difficult thing, depending on the size. If it's a giant compressor, then you're probably going to have to figure something out. You can certainly pump oil in the compressor, but getting the old oil out is kind of difficult. So, any plans? Oh yeah, great question. So with the merch, guys, you guys have been killing it. I'm out of hats. I'm out of like all the big boy sizes and everything. Guys, I have a new order coming in. It's going to be a while before I get it, but I placed a giant order. So the order is going to have 50 small, medium hats, 50 large, extra large hats. I think there's going to be 20 or 30 4XLs, 20 or 30 3XLs, 20 or 32 XLs. And then a crap ton more large, medium, small. Oh, and the 4XLs, 3XLs, and all that stuff are going to be in all sizes now. Before I only had limited, or all colors. Before I only had limited colors. So there's going to be white, gray, and black 4XLs all the way down to small. There's going to be all sizes. So that'll be coming in soon. I already paid for it, so hopefully it ships soon. But it's going to take a while to get it all out because it's a giant order. I was really reluctant. It's kind of scary as a creator, guys. This whole merch thing, I never wanted to do that. And it was you guys that were asking me, hey, when are you going to do merch? When are you going to do merch? And I just decided to go ahead and do it. But then I had to make like investments. And guys, it's insane how much money. Like, oh my gosh, right? And then I started running out of sizes and then having to do another insane order, not even selling out completely. And then it's just like, I mean, first world problems, right? It is what it is, but it's just kind of scary to order all that stuff. And then I don't know if I'm going to sell it all. You know, it's kind of like sketch, but it's all coming, guys. Trust me, we'll have plenty of it. Okay. I got to be honest with you, doing the whole website and the merch thing was probably one of the most stressful things I've ever done in a long time. So the last 3 months has been hell for me, because for the first 2 months I tried to do the website myself. And then finally I decided to just pay the man. And, actually a viewer that's probably in here watching right now recommended someone to me, and it turned out to be awesome. And I had someone create the website for me, but even still, even having someone create it for the last month we've been dealing with it, that was even stressful. And because just having to do my part, design things and come up with content and descriptions and, that kind of stuff. And boy, it was a learning process for sure. And I still am not 100% through the humps because I got sales tax and all kinds of crap to deal with, but that's a whole nother thing. So let's get back to the live stream. Great question that I had in the videos, and I wanted to answer this one. Why do I hate cork tape? What is it about cork tape that I think the devil created? Okay, cork tape. If you don't know, it's an insulating tape. It's kind of made out of tar material. It's very sticky. When it gets hot, it just becomes gooey, kind of like tar. And it does kind of half-ass okay at insulating things, okay? So the manufacturer of the Roach reach-in wanted me, when I was changing the compressor, because the compressor itself was covered under warranty, they wanted me to put cork tape on the suction line to solve that refrigerant leaking problem. And I did, because it was a warranty thing, and they were paying me for it, but I personally don't even carry cork tape because I hate it so much. When cork tape sits in my van, the box usually gets damaged, and then the roll ends up sitting on the shelf, and as it sits in the heat, the damn tape melts on my shelf, and then I have a pile of goo on my shelf. That's one thing I hate about it. Then when you put cork tape on an expansion valve sensing bulb, which is where I grew up with, we always had cork tape on sensing bulbs. Try to take cork tape off of an expansion valve sensing bulb when you're changing a TXV, and it's 20 degrees in that box. It is a pain in the ass. You end up trying to cut the cork tape off, and then you end up cutting your hand. It's just a mess. I just hate cork tape. I prefer insulation tape or good standard insulation over cork tape all day long. In fact, I said it in my video. My guys don't even carry cork tape in their vans. Well, up until recently, none of us carried it because I said, no more cork tape. I hate that stuff. Don't use it. And then we have to now because of warranty. So, it is what it is. All right. Let me see what else we got. Do I have gauges, tools, etc. just for R290? So I have a set of stubby gauges. I have two things I use on R290 systems. I'll use my field piece job link probes, or I use a set of stubby gauges that I use. So I don't have a manifold set that I use specifically with R290. Whatever you use, you have to make sure that it has very, very small volume inside of it. I prefer the smart probes or the little stubby gauges, and then just use a separate charging hose. That's what I do to charge R290 systems. So you definitely don't want to use your standard hose, because R290 systems out there typically are going to have no more than 150 grams of refrigerant in them, about 5.67 ounces or something like that. Guys, you hook up a single 4-foot hose to it and you're done. There's the charge right there. So you got to use very minimal hoses, if any at all, when you're charging R290 systems. I've seen a lot of people buy the the flexible control hoses from United Refrigeration. They make these like poly flex hoses or whatever for pressure controls, and I've seen people use those. That's a cool idea because there's very little volume in those, but personally I don't use that. I just use my my smart probes and a charging tee and an extra hose with a ball valve. So let me see what I'm missing. How many guys are on my team? We're a very, very small company. We have 4 trucks in the field, including my own. So there's 3 other technicians besides myself. And then my dad works at the company too, but he's just office staff. He doesn't really work in the field anymore. The tape is supposedly to avoid condensation and rust. That is absolutely correct, the cork tape. And that's why they want me to use it on the manufacturer's thing, because they say it eliminates the rust. I don't really buy it, but hey, you know what? I just do what I'm told. I guess if the cork tape's on there and it keeps oxygen from getting in there, then theoretically, I guess it would keep the rust, maybe. I'm assuming that the rust happens as a chemical reaction between the water and the oxygen, maybe. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know that. Did I see the new R290 hoses? Yeah, those are probably those control line hoses. I've seen people talk about them, so it's probably those. How come I don't offer PayPal for my merchandise? It's actually, I probably can. I probably can do PayPal because it's not that big of a deal. Let me look into that. I think I can just click it and maybe accept it because you can do PayPal donations on the website. So I don't see how PayPal would be a problem with the merch. I'll look into that because I remember seeing it. I just did the merch from the credit card company because it was just easy. So I'll look into that. If the unit is not under warranty, we leave the service ports on R290. Ernesto says that. Yeah, recently, Ernesto, I don't know if you heard me. I just left them on there. I don't know. We'll see. I'm kind of going that trend right now. Edward, you said True makes an excellent R290 kit. Yeah, True has a kit. I use an iCore refrigeration kit. There's a couple different companies you can get kits from. So what's the hardest job I've ever had? Knock a fire and security. That's a really interesting question. That's a hard one, man. I'll have to think about that one. Send me an email, okay, or hit me up in Discord or something. Another question that I had, guys, is do I ever have to deal with wasps? Because I don't talk about them in my video very much. Guys, there's something about my area. I said this a couple months ago. I haven't seen wasps on my roofs in probably 10 years. We don't see them anymore. And I shouldn't say that. I've seen them once or twice. It's very minimal. When I was coming up as a kid, because I worked for my father from like 10 years old on up, right? When I was coming up, we used to carry wasp spray with us in our bucket because we had wasps on the roof so much. I don't see them anymore, guys. They really aren't around. It's very rare. I think at my house, I have a blackberry bush outside, and I saw a wasp in there the other day, and I was like, wow, a wasp. I haven't seen a wasp nest in years. So we don't see them very often. I'm sure it's a global warming thing or some weird voodoo magic stuff like that. But yeah, we don't see them anymore. So it's a trip. I don't know what it is, but yeah. So great question that I had too on my last video about the Roach unit. Why didn't the customer just replace that unit? Because someone had some valid points and they were saying, you know, the cost of that unit, why didn't the customer just replace it? That's a good question, guys. But when it comes to these corporate restaurants, you have to understand something. First off, that unit, if I had to guess, I don't sell them those units. They buy those direct from the manufacturer. But they're paying anywhere between, it's a pretty broad guess, $4,500 to $5,500 for that box. Okay, it's probably what they're paying for it. And the repair cost, there was a lot of warranty involved in that. So the customer really didn't get hit with it. So the repair cost for the customer was probably under $2,000, if not less than that, somewhere vague in there. Okay. So, you know, even right now with the way things are going with the virus and all this stuff, the customers are pinching pennies and they don't want to spend any money that they don't have to, even if it means, like, for instance, in this situation, they could buy a new unit and get a warranty with it and have a warranty for another 3 years, right? But they don't want to do that, even knowing that they'll get a longer warranty, because it would spend theoretically a little bit more money, right? So they'd rather do the repair, which is crazy amount of money. Even if it's getting really close to the replacement cost, still, they'd rather do the repair. It's very difficult when it comes to these corporate restaurants. They have to deal with depreciation. Everything that they buy is on tax, is for tax reasons. So these customers basically look at the price of a unit. It's a tax write-off. Their accountants figure out how long it's a tax write-off for. And that's how they operate their books, is by using tax write-offs 24/7. Okay, so it's not just spending money. It's looking at something, knowing that they're going to get the full tax write-off for it. Then they buy a new one. So everything comes into factors when it comes to buying new reach-ins, new air conditioners. Another question I get all the time is why do they replace these air conditioners? Why do they repair these air conditioners that I fix? Again, it's another thing like that. What you think, right? In California, to change a 10-ton package unit is probably going to cost, let's see, 10 times 50. A 10-ton package unit is going to cost the customer anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000, depending on the permits and all the crazy crap that they have to go through with the city. So oftentimes, a $5,000 repair, changing 2 compressors and cleaning condensers and all that crap, they're okay spending it, because 15 to 20 grand, yeah, they'd get a warranty, but you know, they don't want to spend that extra money. All right, let's see what else we got in here. Are my hats flex fit? Yeah, they are. I'm going to pull one out right now. Yeah, so the hats are flex fit material in the back. They're solid on the back, and they just say HVACR on the front. There's currently no more hats available. There might be a small medium, maybe one or two, but there's no largest, but they'll be coming in. And guys, people are asking me, hey, why didn't you use my snowflake? And I just did HVACR. There's no snowflake on the hat. I purposely did that, guys. I just used my color scheme. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted you guys to be able to wear these hats at work without your companies getting upset for advertising my logo. Because the way that I work at my business, I don't let my guys wear things that represent other companies. They can wear a work-related hat, or they can wear one of these hats because it simply says HVACR, but they can't wear a hat that says HVACR videos because that's not representing the company that they work for, okay? So that's the reason why. So in the future, it's a very good possibility I might do something with my snowflake logo on this hat too, but for now, I just wanted to have these hats that said HVACR so they were generic and you guys could wear them at your companies theoretically without getting in trouble for advertising something, okay? But yes, flex fit hats. Oh, and the biggest thing about these hats, guys, black underbill. So your fingerprints, they don't dirty them up. Guys, I have been using this hat. Well, not this one. I have one that's in my truck for a year now. Before I release this merch that I have, these shirts, I've had samples and hats for a year that I've been wearing over and over and over again. And I've been testing them just because I wanted to make sure that everything was going to last. So I have the same hat that I've been wearing for over a year. I've washed it 2 times and it's finally getting to the point where it's about time to retire. And it's not because it's dirty. It's because it's becoming stretched out. It's not this one. This one's actually tight. So yeah, the hats are very good quality. I really like them. So Benjamin, dude, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. That is flipping awesome. HVACR Whiz. Wow, dude. You guys are flipping awesome. Thank you so very much for these super chats. You guys don't have to do this, okay? You guys are blowing me away. Thank you, okay? Wow. You want one with the V and the R, do you get a discount? Yeah, you're like, what is it? Is it Sneaky Pete? No. What is the Chris Rock character on In Living Color? I think it was like Sneaky Pete or something like that, where he would always try to barter with everybody. Good Lord, that's a lot of money. How about I give you $10 and you take out the airbag? Yeah, I don't remember what that guy's name was, but he's funny. All right, anybody? Oh, yeah, no. All right, let's see what else. Your company only does refrigeration. Would it be hard to learn air conditioning? No, it would not at all. It would not. If you understand electrical and you understand the refrigerant temperatures in the system, you can handle air conditioning. You just have to understand airflow. That's the only thing. You'll be fine in air conditioning, okay? All right, let's see what else. Let me see what else I got on my list here. I already covered that one. I'm just crossing things off my list right here, guys. So I covered that. Oh, great question here. Cruxus Arcanium. Dude, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. That is awesome. I appreciate that chat comment. Okay, you guys don't have to keep the super chat train going, but thank you very much. But that's a really nice gesture. Panic alarms. I get panic alarms. I get questions about panic alarms in my walk-in freezers and walk-in coolers all the time. And people ask me, what are those panic alarms for? Why is there a panic alarm? Okay, when it comes to chain restaurants, what you guys don't know, if you go and insert name of giant chain restaurant that's everywhere, there's probably 5 to 10 panic alarms all over that restaurant. Okay. It's a liability thing. HVACR Whiz. Thank you so very much, bud. So there's usually 5 to 10 panic alarms all over the building. They keep them in the walk-in coolers, the walk-in freezers, and it's in case the building ever gets robbed. Okay. Liability, the restaurants have all been sued, so they have to do everything they can do to try to protect their employees. But why put a panic alarm inside the walk-in freezer or walk-in cooler especially? Well, if you think about it, let's say the building's being robbed. If all the staff that can get in the walk-in cooler runs in there, they typically have locks on the inside, so you can lock them from the inside. You can hit the panic alarm and hope that the police will be there within 5 to 10 minutes. Yes, if someone was really trying to get through the walk-in door, they could probably do it, but that's the whole point of having panic alarms. Randy Johnson, dude, thank you so very much. Cruxus, you guys are awesome, man. Thank you. Greg, thank you, guys. You guys are blowing my mind. Thank you, okay? You guys don't have to do this. This is very awesome, okay? Thank you. All right, so that's the reason why we have panic alarms. Another great question that I had is True Blue hoses. What's the big deal with True Blue hoses? Are they really necessary? So I use those giant blue vacuum hoses when I'm doing evacuations. Is it really necessary for every one of you guys to go out and buy the biggest, baddest, badass vacuum hoses in the world? No, it's not, okay? What I suggest, I use before the, you guys, Austin Collier, thank you. Laska Lives, thank you guys. You guys are freaking awesome. Thank you very much. So the big vacuum hoses, guys, The bigger the hoses, the faster the vacuum. The smaller the hoses, the longer the vacuum. So long as you have time and you know how to pull a proper vacuum, you can do so with smaller hoses, but it's just going to take more time and be more painstaking, okay? Nick S., you guys are awesome, man. Thank you so very much, okay? So with the big hoses, you don't have to. Now, would I suggest that if you're considering buying new vacuum hoses that you buy the True Blue? Heck yeah, I got no affiliation with them, but those True Blue hoses, those big blue ones are badass, guys. So when your Appion ones wear out or whatever hoses you use wear out, thank you, Adam. That's really cool, bud. Overtime, thank you so very much. That's awesome. You guys are really awesome with these super chats, so I tell you what, we're going to try something really quick because you guys are being awesome. So what we're going to do is if you guys... are in the chat and you're active, I'm going to try to do a giveaway right now if I can figure out how to do this. Let me see if I can figure out how to do a giveaway, and I'll give away some merch. Current giveaway. Let me see right here. Where's this at? Custom. Okay, so I'm going to do a giveaway for a shirt because I don't have any hats right now, guys. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be for everyone in the chat right now. Go ahead and chat away, and I'm going to go ahead and hit the start giveaway button. And hopefully you guys live in the continental United States. If not, we'll figure something out, okay? And if I don't have your size, I'll just have to owe you guys, okay? So I'm going to try this giveaway bot right now, and let's go ahead and do this, okay? Here we go. Let's see how this works, and let me see if I can figure this out. And why isn't the people not popping up on here? They should pop up on here, and they're not. I think it's going to take a second. And it's seriously not working. Let me do a random comment picture. Oh, okay. It wants you to enter a command. That's why. Hold on just a second. Let me see this right now. Okay, so blank. Okay, so let me change the command right now. Keep it going. Keep it going. I'll put a command in here and I'll tell you guys what to type, and then you'll get a ticket, and then we'll do it from there, okay? So let me type use command. Oh, yeah. Here we go. E-I-C-K-L-E-S. Okay. A shirt. Hold on just 1 second. For everyone. Okay. So let me see if this works. Hopefully I did this right, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And let's see if I did this right. Let me hit this button right here. And active giveaway is popping up. And I don't know how the hell to do this. Okay, so I don't know how to do this damn giveaway on this damn thing. It's driving me nuts. I really wish I could do close entries. Okay, so I don't know how that works. What I'm going to do is go ahead and just do it like this and make it easy for you. Okay. So I am going to pick someone right now. Let me see. We're going to make it as random as possible. One of these days I'll get the giveaway thing figured out. All right, got it right here. I already got the winner, guys. All right, here's the winner. I'm going to post it in the chat right now. Control V. What the winner that I post right now in the chat, I'm about to. What you need to do is send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. And I'll figure out the giveaway thing, and we'll figure out your shirt size and the color that I have, and we'll do it, okay? And I'll do it right now. And here you go. The winner's... Okay, stop chatting. The winner's coming in right now. The winner is Jason Inzenauer. Jason Inzenauer. I need you to send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. And I'll figure out how to give you a coupon code so you can order a shirt off the website, okay? And one of these days I'll figure out how to do the Nightbot or Moderator Bot giveaway thing there. So, hey, buddy Ralph. My buddy Ralph's in here. How you doing, man? So, Jason, send me an email, bud, okay? I posted it in there. All right, so let's get to my list of things to talk about. Again, thank you guys so very much for those super chats. You guys are awesome. You don't need to do that. That is awesome, okay? We'll do more of those giveaways soon, okay? Someone had asked me a question. Why do I not use impacts? So someone saw me using a drill in my tool bag. I have a Vito tool bag that I carry with me every day. And they said, why do you use a drill and not an impact? I hate impacts because they strip everything out, guys. I prefer my employees not use impacts either, but I can't control them on that, and they still use impacts. But I carry a drill because I use a drill quite often. I use an 1/8" drill bit when I'm working in the field all the time, so it's easiest just to have a drill that I can, has a normal adjustable chuck on it. I can put a drill bit in it, and the cool thing about a drill versus an impact is that I have a clutch on it, and I can set the clutch so I don't strip every single screw out on the carrier package units, guys, because I can't handle when the package units get all stripped out. Drives me nuts. So, all right, let's see what else. Covered that one out. Covered that on my list. Guys, if you have more questions, go ahead and put them in the chat in caps lock, and I'll try to get to them, okay? Let's see what else. Jay, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. Really, I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Thank you, okay? All right, let's see. Future plans, guys, another thing, too, with the website is that I'm eventually going to have a page on there, and I'm probably going to have the guys start working on it now, where I have all my tool links. So that way we don't necessarily have to go in the show notes of the videos is my theory, maybe. Maybe we'll still have them in the show notes, but I'll have like an actual dedicated page with tool links and maybe pictures and videos or something like that with the tools. And I don't know if you guys know, I really haven't been preaching it very much, but I do plan on posting on my tools channel too, because I have another YouTube channel where I wanted to do more tool videos because I didn't want to cloud this one up. And I'll be posting more on that since we're done with the whole website and the merch thing now. And it's kind of on cruise control. So I'll be able to start posting some more videos, and I'll have those linked on the website too soon, guys, okay? In the beginning of this stream, guys, I talked about it. We were kind of hanging out in a Discord server that we created. I'm going to post a link to the Discord server right now. It's just another place. We've tried this before. The hopes are that this one isn't going to become a toxic environment like it did last time when I did one with some friends of mine. And it was nothing about my friends. It was just because we didn't know what we were doing and we let it get out of control. So this time we created a new Discord server, myself, and I have a moderation team. And they kind of handle everything for me, and we're trying to keep it under control so it doesn't get toxic. But what I did today was I was hanging out in there before the stream, just listening to music, kind of chatting with people. That's the whole point. I plan on being in there Mondays before while I'm prepping for the stream, talking to people and different things like that. And you guys can hang in there whenever and talk between yourselves. But there's the link to the Discord server. Go check it out. Go join. And but understand something. That server, I am not going to be in there all the time. Okay, occasionally I'll pop in and talk with people, but it's not going to be something I'm going to be in there every single day for hours a day. Nothing like that. It's just going to be occasionally. There's little sections in there that you guys can ask questions and different stuff like that. Guys, these super chats that are coming through, thank you. I really appreciate it. Okay. Oh, right on, LM Sylvia. It's just like a giant chat room, basically. What's my process for pinpointing difficult to find leaks? So what I'll typically do is I use the DTEC Select leak detector. It's done me pretty well for a long time. I think it's finally getting to the point that it's time to start considering replacing it. I've had my exact DTEC Select for at least 6 years now, and I've changed the sensors on it a few times, but it's starting to get worn out in general. So it's about time. I've changed the batteries on it probably like 4 or 5 times and changed the sensor head 3 or 4, something like that. But anyways, it's about time. So I'm considering the DTEC Stratus, but I'm kind of letting everybody feel that one out. But as far as leaks go, what I typically do, the DTEC Select has done me really well. Turn the system off, equalize out the pressures, and then attack the system. Look at the common places. Start with the evaporator. Look for the rub out spots. Once I narrow it down with the leak detector, then I'm going to get out the big blue soap bubbles, spray it on the leaks, and try to find it from that point forward. Now, if I can't find the leak, in extreme circumstances, I'm going to go ahead and remove the refrigerant from the system, pressurize it with nitrogen, making sure not to exceed the evaporator pressure temperature or the high pressure maximum evaporator pressure, basically, which is usually like 100 to 150 psi, somewhere in there. You don't exceed that, and then you put a trace gas of 404A or something like that in there. Doesn't matter what refrigerant belongs in the system. If you're putting nitrogen, just put a little bit of trace of 404 in there, as long as you're going to remove it all after. And use that as a trace gas. It's pretty easy to find 404A with all leak detectors, and bump the system up and use that as a pressure test, then try to find the leaks better. In extreme circumstances, I pressure tested beyond the restrictions of the maximum evaporator pressure, but you got to be very careful with that, especially when you have transducers and electronic expansion valves and different things like that. So, okay. Let me see what else we got in here. Oh, great question. Ethan had asked me before the stream. Ethan is in high school, And he wants to get into air conditioning and refrigeration. He's really interested in it. And he said, what can he do while he's still in high school? What kind of classes can he take to get involved that are going to get him ready for air conditioning and refrigeration? Now, one may say this is a trade. You don't need to be skilled in anything. But in a perfect world, Ethan, if you can be knowledgeable in your science classes, in your math classes, and your shop classes, okay? You get mechanical skills from a shop class. You get technical brain power from your math class, and you understand chemicals and chemical reactions from your science class. You're going to be much better to get involved into a trade school after that and move your way up. Surprisingly, I was never good at math. I was never good at science, but there's quite a bit of math that I have to do every single day in my head. Yeah, I have a set of smart gauges, and the smart gauges do a lot of work for me, but I still have to verify. Jordan, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. That is awesome. So I use math skills every day, okay? When you're figuring out angles, when you're cutting insulation, when you're figuring out how to measure angles on a duct, like for instance, I'm going to be doing a package unit replacement and it's a side shot, but the side shot's coming in at a weird angle. It's not coming in straight into the AC. So I've got to figure out that angle. So I'm going to do some measurements and figure out the exact angle that it's at so I can have someone fab up some ductwork, because I'm not a duct monkey. I don't do ductwork, okay? So I'm going to have someone do that for me, but I need to be able to go to him with the drawings and say, this is at this angle, this is at that angle. That's where the geometry comes in and all that different stuff, okay? So it's very important that you do understand and have good math skills, okay? So hopefully that makes sense for you, bud. Any more questions? Oh, the last thing I forgot to tell you is if you can be proficient in public speaking and social speaking, basically, okay? So you need to know how to speak to people. You need to know how to look people in the eye, have a conversation, and clearly relay information to them without using slang, without, not staring at them, without staring at your phone. That's a very important skill that you can potentially learn from high school and hopefully like a public speaking class or something like that. That would help you tremendously, okay? All right, let's see what we got in the chat. Oh, cool. That is awesome, Jesse, that you have an HVACR class in your high school. That is really cool. Guys, these super chats, Victor HVAC, you guys are awesome, man. Thank you. What do I think about refrigerant drugs going all one color? Dan, it seems kind of silly that they're all going one color, but the same thing, it's the same principle. Guys, we have all these new refrigerants coming out every day, right? 404A is being banned. 134A is being banned. Eventually, R22 is going to be banned. All these different refrigerants. 410A is going to be banned. I don't really worry about it, right? As far as the refrigerant types, I don't worry about it because it just means that I have to use my brain and I have to know saturation temperatures and I have to know. Now, why are all the cylinders going to the same color? I'm sure that my buddy Ralph in here can probably give a smart answer on that one. I think they kind of ran out of colors, to be honest with you, because there's so many different refrigerants. I bet you that's a pretty genuine answer right there, but it's not that big of a deal. I do see some problems. If you have a refrigerant cylinder sitting in your van for years, the label will wear off. And the fact that it's, like a reddish pinkish color tells me that it's 404, or if it's pink, it's 410. So yeah, that could become a problem if the label wears off. I don't know. It's just one of those things we really have no control over. So it is what it is. It kind of sucks, but I'm not too worried about it. On my side though, here in California, we haven't seen the new cylinders yet. I haven't seen the different color cylinders at my supply houses. So that's interesting. Let me see what else. What do I have on here? I covered that pretty good. Okay, cool. Let's get to the chat. There you go. They ran out of colors and the colors started to look very similar. So there we go. I guessed on that one and I was right. Thanks, Ralph. Appreciate that. How do I feel about using system flush on a system? I'm not a fan of it. Now, I will preface this by saying that for the first probably 10 years of my career, I used flush all the time. And I never had a problem that I knew of from using the flush, okay? But I was listening to a podcast with Brian Orr and Mr. John Pastorello from Refrigeration Technologies on that podcast. And he was talking about flushes and additives and different things for the system. And just the conversation that he had about what those additives are made of and the solvents that are left in the system and the potential problems made me change my mind. And I decided that I'm not going to use any flush or additives anymore. And I haven't since then. Really haven't been using them. Now, if a customer begs me and tells me to use a leak sealer or something like that, I'm going to advise them against all the problems and then I'll use it if they want it. But I'm going to make sure they understand. Sean, thank you very much for that super sticker, man. That is awesome, bud. I really appreciate it. So yeah, I'm not a fan of flushes or additives or anything like that. unless the customer demands that I use them. So, guys, the reason why I haven't seen the colors change here in Southern California yet is because I buy for some giant supply houses, and I usually buy from, I'm really close to both of the major supply house, actually all three of them. I shop primarily at Allied Refrigeration, RSD, and United Refrigeration, and all of them have their West Coast, or well, actually Allied is West Coast, but Allied has their corporate office where their storage facility's at, and RSD has their West Coast hub there, and United Refrigeration has their West Coast hub all near me. So they have giant stockpiles of refrigerant. I'm sure I'll get to the, to the gray colored ones soon, but they just have so much that we've been getting the cylinders. That, and we stockpile a little bit at the shop too. So Randy Johnson. Okay, bud. Yeah, that is awesome. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much, bud. Okay. You guys don't need to do those super chats, but thank you. Okay. What about Acid Away? Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of Acid Away. I haven't used Acid Away for a very long time because it just doesn't make sense to me. So I just clean the system up, put a good high acid suction line dryer, high acid liquid line filter dryer, and then as part of my quote to change the compressor, I will put a return visit to go ahead and remove that suction dryer and liquid dryer and change it again. So yeah, and try to maintain the system oil and make sure everything's good. Hopefully that answers that. What causes a VFD to short? It really depends. I would say in my situation, most of the VFDs that have failed have been because of the environment that they're in. The dirt fills up the back of the heat sink, I guess, on the back, or the heat. It's not a heat exchanger, but there's like a conductive plate on the back that dissipates the heat, and they have a fan that pulls the heat right off of that. Those things get really dirty with dirt, and it causes issues. We also have poor power here in Southern California, and these units have no power conditioning. The VFDs, I almost said it, guys, and pissed off everybody, right? VFD drive. The VFDs typically are cheaper model VFDs, and they don't have very much power conditioning built into them. When you get into the big giant industrial VFDs for like hospitals and different things like that, they have all kinds of power conditioning built into them and protection devices. But most of these small VFDs on the package units that come, they don't have that because they're just budget models. So they fail quite often. Likely more probably because of the heat. So, Ralph, Discord, for those of you that don't know, so Discord is literally like what you guys are chatting in right now. It's a giant chat room. That's all that it is. It's just a giant chat room. But you guys do need to pay attention and follow the instructions. There's like on the beginning of the Discord server, there's a page that you have to read the rules. Basically, be kind. Don't be jerks to people. I don't care about criticism. To me, you guys can criticize me all day long. I just don't want you attacking other people in the stream. I'm sure most of you guys aren't going to do that. But the previous Discord, that's why it failed, was because we really weren't moderating anything. We were letting people say whatever. And it just got to the point where I didn't like it. I was having to tell people to stop saying stupid stuff, and it was just silly. But now we got a moderation team, so it's a giant chat room. That's all the Discord is. So, are Tecumseh products the best? Because we have a Lennox air conditioner with a Tecumseh compressor. So Tecumseh makes very high quality reciprocating compressors. Yes, they have for a very long time. Tecumseh has since been bought out. They're owned by another conglomerate now. But yes, they make very good compressors. I've never used their scroll compressors, or at least haven't recently. They had a batch of scroll compressors in the early 90s that were an epic failure, and they stopped making scrolls for a very long time. Then they started releasing their scroll line again. I've heard good things about their scrolls, the new ones, but I have not used one of the new scrolls. But their reciprocating compressors, yeah, they're great compressors. I got nothing bad to say about them as long as you don't murder them. Most compressors, whether it be Tecumseh, Bristol, Copeland, Aspera, and Embraco, which, if you guys don't know, Aspera and Embraco, I think they might be the same company now, but they actually manufacture a lot of the fractional horsepower compressors for Copeland, and I think Tecumseh. But anyways, that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, they're all good compressors. Really, they're murdered by us not taking care of the system, by expansion valves failing, by poor airflow, different things like that. So, all right, let's see what else we got in the chat, guys. How many calls do I get a week? So before the virus, we had, I don't know, somewhere between 6 and 10 calls a day is what we would get. Not necessarily what we would do, but what we would get a day, somewhere between 6 and 10. Now, during the virus, I was down to, during the full lockdown, we're still in the virus, but during the full lockdown for those 3 months, I was getting like 2 calls a week. All my guys were laid off. Now we're kind of picking back up. Some customers are starting to do preventative maintenance. Here comes the Coke nose guy. Something about the end of the stream. So my customers, they're starting to do preventative maintenances again. So right now, I'd say we're up to 5 calls a day right now is what we're getting. And we're probably getting done 4 of them a day. So we usually have 1 rolling off the next day. So we end the week usually with a call that we got to push to Monday and then kind of get back to it. So we're getting better. Okay. Things are still slow. I'd love for them to be busier, but at the same time, I'm busy. That's the problem. I'd like for my guys to be busier, but there's a lot of stuff that I have to take care of, like problematic calls and quotes. Like I had to go do a package unit curb verification so the customer can buy a new package unit. I had to verify the curb size and figure out the duct work. And it's just like that took 4 hours of my day, an hour and a half away from here, and it's just a pain in the butt. So it's things like that that I have to do. So I'm super busy. My guys, they're doing okay. My guys are getting about i'd say 34 to 40 hours a week is what my guys are getting. So we try to give them as much as we can. So suction dryer on an RTU unit, yeah, we'll put them on there if it has a burnout. It depends, but you got to pay attention, okay? Just because on a suction dryer, do I have one back here? No, but a liquid dryer is the same. But just because the suction dryer has the same line size as the suction line going to the compressor does not mean it's the same size, okay? So what I mean by that is just because the dryer is 7/8 connections does not mean it's the right size for the unit. You have to look on the box of the dryer, and this is big on the package units because package units can't really handle a pressure drop across a suction dryer because they're not sized that way, the refrigeration systems. So you need to oversize the suction dryers on your package units. So on a, let's say a train 10-ton compressor, you need to look on that box and you need to look up the spoiling documentation and find out what size the dryer needs to be for the tonnage of the system, not because of the line sizes, okay? Another thing that I wanted to bring up that I just remembered, and I know the moderator bot posted it in here, okay, but I'm going to mention it again, is that Sporlin actually has a live or a webinar this Thursday, okay? And it's going to be on methods of temperature controllers, and it's going to be talking about solenoid valves and thermostats, okay? I'd highly suggest that you guys go check out that webinar. It's going to be a really cool one. I'm going to pop up a link right now. Actually, I can pull it from here. The moderator bot should have posted it for me, but I'll pull it up again real quick. Hold on just 1 second. It should be right here. And there's the webinar. And let me pull it up. Hold on just 1 second. There it is right there. Sorry, if I was more prepared, I would have this ready, but I will put it right here, Control V, and I'm going to post the link to their webinar. Again, do me a favor, guys. It really helps me out. Go sign up for this webinar and check it out because these webinars are actually really cool webinars. So check it out, sign up for it, and you guys will probably enjoy that very much. The 2 guys that do the webinars actually do have a good vibe going between them, and they have a good conversation going on. Have I ever cleaned or changed the cover on my mic? Maybe because of Coke nose. No, I've never cleaned or changed the cover on my mic. No, but I actually appreciate the mic without the mic cover. Never really thought about cleaning it. That's a good point. Maybe I should. The problem is that I get a lot of pops. That's a pop filter, and that's there to prevent the pops from happening. And I tend to hear them in my ear. I don't know if you guys are hearing them, or they call them plosives, is the fancy term. But yeah, I hear them in my ear. I hear the pop, 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 pop sounds. The pop, pop. Yeah, that's what you don't want to get without the mic cover. So I'll roll without it right now. Maybe that'll help my Coke nose. All right. Do I ever go to a call knowing I have to rush it? Yeah, I mean, it happens, but you also got to stop and remember that I give my customer my time. In the middle of the summer, you know, when we're 911, we don't have that right now because the customers aren't going crazy. But in the middle of the summer in the previous years, yeah, we had crazy calls going on. Yeah, I would have to like put a fire out. We call it putting fires out, and then we'll return and finish it. So we'll go reset pressure controls, clean a condenser, and then come back and diagnose it or verify everything's good later. So yeah, we do have to sometimes. Any issues? Let me see here. Honeywell is also doing a webinar. Oh, I did not hear that. Ralph, send me an email. Yeah, send me an email, Ralph, and I'll post your webinar, bud. I didn't realize that. If you send me an email, if you have the link right now, Ralph, I'll post it in here. Send it to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. I will gladly post that for you, Ralph, if you can get it to me. If not, I'll push it out on social media later for you, bud, just to help out. So let's see what else. Okay. Yeah, whatever, Ralph. Just send me the details. I'll help you promote that, dude. So why do roaches like wires so much? Honestly, I think that roaches like, in my opinion, they like the heat from the electrical connections of the temperature controllers and things like that more. But I'm not a genius when it comes to pests. So, all right, let me see what else we got in here. Big picture. That's right, guys. Big picture diagnosis. Very important. Have I ever got an ECM that's not programmed? No, but I've gotten VFDs that are not programmed, and that drives me nuts. I've never gotten an ECM. I've only done very few ECM motors, evaporator fan motors for reach-ins and walk-ins, but VFDs, yeah, that's been a pain in the butt when you order a new VFD and then they give it to you and it's not programmed at all and you thought you were going to start it up and move on. No, and then you got to go through all the programming. Yeah, no, that's a pain in the butt. What's my preferred head pressure control? Fan cycling, VFD, or head pressure control valve? That is my preferred head pressure control. So a head pressure control valve. Two different types, in my opinion, are the best. This is an LAC valve, and this is an OROA valve, okay? These are on the smaller systems. I don't do any of the big systems that take hold-back valves and the different ones. So I like the LAC valves the best because they're super easy to work with. But essentially, it basically just maintains a flooded condenser to drive the head pressure up in the system. And I find that a head pressure control valve maintains system pressures and doesn't stress the system out as much. If you put a fan cycle on a system, especially if it has a single condenser fan motor, what you're going to notice, if you pay attention to your sight glass, your subcooling, and your head pressure, your sight glass is going to start to flash every time the condenser fan motor turns on and turns off, and it's just very violent on the system, on the on and off, and then the fan motor's turning on and off. Now, if you have multiple condenser fan motors and you can stage them slowly with a fan cycle, that's a good idea. But head pressure control valve is my favorite, but with a head pressure control valve, I've talked about it crazy in my videos. You have to do a flooded charge in the system or a winter charge, and you have to calculate that appropriately, and the system has to be properly sized for a head pressure control valve's flooded charge too. So that's a whole nother thing. Headmaster, that's right. Let me see what else we got. Any problems using Measure Quick for refrigeration since it's geared towards HVAC? Tone Hernandez. So personally, I do not use the troubleshooting in Measure Quick for diagnostics when it comes to refrigeration, and I really don't use it for air conditioning very much either. I do kind of use the airflow a little bit as a guide when I'm doing air conditioning, but on refrigeration, I just use it to consolidate the information and put it at my fingertips so that way I can see superheat, subcooling, saturation temperatures, and that kind of stuff when I'm working on refrigeration. So Measure Quick's refrigeration mode is actually still in beta mode, meaning that it's not perfected. So yeah, I don't use the troubleshooting in Measure Quick, but I do use Measure Quick all the time for diagnostics just to get all the information at my fingertips so I don't have to run around getting temperatures and all that different stuff. So let's see what else. Why don't I do many install videos? Oh, that's a good question. So the reason why I don't show installs very much, if you've never noticed, you guys don't see my employees in my videos, okay? So when I do installs, it's usually all hands on deck. We have all of our guys there. And it's a little too difficult to film my videos without getting other people in them when we're doing installs because there's so many people there. I prefer to keep my employees out of my videos for liability reasons. Lots of different issues with that just create a problem because, you know, it's mixing companies and different things like that, and it's just, you don't want to do that. So most of the time I don't show installs because for the most part I've got all my employees with me and it's too hard to film when they're all there. So does my company do installs? We do retrofit installs. We don't do new installation per se. Every once in a blue moon I might help a customer out, but I will do package unit replacements on the roof of an existing unit. I will not do new cut-ins or anything like that. No. Any experience installing Samsung FGMs? No, I have no experience doing Samsung FGMs. Hello, everybody. All right. Really appreciate you guys all coming in here. This is awesome. So at this point in time, guys, we're going to go ahead and end the technical talk and free for all. You guys got questions for me personally? We'll go with that. Okay. So no more technical talk. And this is more just, you know, winding up the show. This is more just the relaxed hangout talk. That is correct. Adam from HVAC Overtime will tie in this last thing that Jim Bergman from Measure Quick is actually going to be on the HVAC Overtime show this Friday coming up. And I plan on being on the HVAC Overtime show this Friday, work permitting, so long as I can be there. But yeah, Mr. Jim Bergman will be there. The HVAC Overtime show is more of a relaxed interview show. We usually are all drinking pretty heavily, and we usually have some good conversations. We try to mix in some technical talk while we're there, but it's more of a relaxed vibe. No, like, we do have goals and ideas of things that we want to talk about, but we kind of just let the conversation go, and usually like to do that. So definitely check out the HVAC Overtime show. There's plenty of links being posted in the chat and stuff. So guys want to do that. It's not my show. It's actually, I'm just a guest basically that they have on there on a semi-regular basis, but it's A-Team Adam that's in the chat right now. It's HVACR North, Joe, and it's Curious HVAC guy, Bill. They're the three guys that are on the show, and then they just kind of let me tag along every once in a while. So I'm just there for moral support. Wife and kids are good. You know, my kids are kind of bummed out because we found out that I'm sure, like most of you guys, that they're not going back to school. So they're kind of bummed about that. It's been announced that our schools are not going to continue. I mean, they're going to do online school at least until January. So my kids will be basically sitting at a computer all day, at least until January. So Deja Levy, thank you so very much for that super chat. Do me a favor and send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com, and I'll give you all kinds of tips, okay? So yeah, my family's doing good. My wife is doing good. My wife has been a saint, helping me out so much with the merch and stuff like that, guys. So if you guys ordered something, the odds are that my wife packed it and set it all up for you guys. She's been really killing it with that, doing a good job. I came in today. I think you guys have blown me away with the merch orders. I think we have sent out 120 something orders, which is awesome, guys. You guys are so cool. That I was blown away with that. I was so worried when I ordered that stuff, and you guys really came in and saved the day because I was worried about ordering all that merch. So I was a little bit skeptical about reordering the second order, but I think you guys will be good for it, and I'll go ahead and keep doing it. So let me see what else we got in here. What do we got? Just went to Bernie Falls Trail. That's cool. Ernesto, where's Bernie Falls? I don't know where that one's at. I remember you saying you were going to be going to Yosemite. I don't think I watched a video though. I think you did a video, but I don't think I watched it. Guys, if you don't already, click on Ernesto's channel. It's HVACR Vlogger. I believe you can click on his name and find his channel. If not, just look up HVACR Vlogger on YouTube. And you'll find him too. He's got a cool little channel. He works up in the San Francisco, well, he works up in Northern California near the San Francisco Bay Area. He's often working in the San Francisco Bay Area, but he's actually more Central California. But it's cool because Ernesto and I used to work for some of the same restaurant chains in a previous company that he worked for. So I would recognize things from his videos and he would recognize them from my videos. And we were cool because both of us try not to show the restaurant names in our videos, so to try to protect the customers. And but we could always guess and kind of communicate in private between each other to say, hey, I know where you're at. You're working on this or whatever. So cool, dude. Check out his channel, guys. Do I plan to go into my dad's role, and how am I going to get there? Chris Cooley, that's a great question. So I don't know how I could do it, Chris, because I really, really am a control freak when it comes to things. And I mean, I don't mind if my guys have opinions on how they want to do things, but I'm very involved in my customers. And I just can't see myself getting out of the field. I really can't, because I have such trust issues with stuff, and we just have issues. So I need to be out there working. And in all honesty, it's a major stress reliever for me to be working. So to get into my dad's role, for those of you that guys don't know, I work with my dad, okay? And my dad has stopped working probably 10 years ago, and I've taken over the field work. And our roles, basically, we run the company together. My dad handles the office work. I handle the employees for the most part. I handle the customers for the most part, and I handle all the tech support and the work. And my dad is more of a support role, handles the billing, the office, some clerical stuff. We have a secretary too. My aunt is actually my secretary. It's all in the family. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I could possibly do my dad's job, because I feel like I need to be out in the field. I feel like I would lose complete control if I wasn't in the field every day. But that's just my control freak in me. I love working, guys. When I get stressed out, when I'm dealing with whatever, if I could just go run service calls and turn my phone off, I'm happy. I'm so happy if I could just fix things. That's my stress reliever big time. So, Let's see what else. How is my dad doing? Would he be interested in coming on? You guys, people keep asking me that. I've honestly never asked him. I'll ask him. I don't know if that's something he's interested in, but I keep saying I'm going to do it. So I'll write it down and I'll ask him. So Joe on the show. My dad's name is Joe. So, all right. Am I going to be attending the AHR Expo in 2021? So, I mean, I plan on doing it for sure. I have plans with my friends. My buddy Adam from the HVAC Overtime Show, A-Team Adam. He actually lives in Chicago or near Chicago. So I have grand plans of hanging out with Adam, having a barbecue, seeing all the friends and stuff, but it's kind of up in the air. I'm a little bit reluctant to book anything right now because we just don't know what the situation's going to be. And I want to make sure if I do book anything, it's completely cancelable and refundable. So I'm a little bit skeptical about booking yet, but yeah, I mean, if the virus is doing okay and they're allowing travel and it's safe, then for sure I will be there. So I want to go for sure. So I went to the AHR show in Orlando and it was awesome. So, let me see what else. What is my company name? I'd rather not mention that in a live stream. My company name is pretty public, but I'd just rather not mention it in a live stream. So, let's see what else. Van tour soon. Yeah, I have a van tour on my channel right now. If you just go to my channel and search van tour, it's of my van that I'm in a new van now, but it's pretty much set up the same, but I don't think I have a new van tour. So I'll work on that. That'll probably be a tool video on my tools channel for sure. So, no more Roaches videos. Okay. How far am I from Palm Springs, Ray? Ray, I'm an hour and a half from Palm Springs and I regularly work out there. I have 2 customers that have between 3 locations between 2 customers out in the Palm Springs area. So I work out there probably about once a month. Like I actually had a service technician out in La Quinta, California today, which is near Palm Springs. But it is about an hour and a half from my house, from our shop. So it's a ways. Yeah, Scott. Hey, you know what? I'll get you an invite, Scott. I'll get you an invite. So, all right. Where do I go on vacation? Where do I like to go? So, my passion is camping and outdoor stuff. It has been far too long. It's probably been 2.5, 3 years since I've gone backpacking, but backpacking is my thing. I really like to do that where I just put a tent, a sleeping bag, and a couple things of food and some camping gear. And I just go hike off into the forest where I'm completely detached from everything. I really love doing that. That is awesome. It's been too long and I need to get back into that, but just camping in general, I really like the outdoors. I think I said it on my last live stream. That was like a question where I did a giveaway, but in another life, in another world, not changing anything about my family, my ideal job would be a park ranger. So I'm an outdoors person for sure. Let's see what else we got in here. How much money do I make per call? Oh, that changes. I'm not going to mention money in general, but I mean, every call changes. There's so many variables that come into that. But I'm just a normal person. I make a decent living. I live in Southern California, which is arguably a 3-income state. So yeah. All right. There you go. Yeah. Then I'm not going to give you an invite just so you can crash it, Scott. So what is my second channel? It's called, oh shoot. I think there's a link in the show notes of this video. It's called HVACR Tools, but it's going to be hard to find it because there's only one video on it. Here, I can probably link it real quick. Hold on just a second. Oh, wait, I can't do it right there. Yeah, just look in the show notes of this video. All right, guys. It is getting to be that time. I am going to wrap this up. I really, really appreciate you guys coming in here. You guys that did these super chats, oh my gosh, thank you so very much for these super chats. I'm blown away with your guys' support. It's absolutely awesome. I'm going to queue up the outro music. Go check out the Discord server. I might pop in there a little bit tonight here and there. But again, I'm not going to spend hours in there, but I might say hey to you guys. And yeah, other than that, we'll catch you guys on the next one. If y'all could do one thing, if y'all could take one thing from my videos or my live streams, please stop, take a second, take a step back, and look at the big picture. Watch out for the unicorns. They can be very, very dangerous.